Hey guys, welcome to the first episode of the brand new podcast, Machiavellian Monkeys. We are your hosts. I am Aaron James.
This is Lurker Mario, Central Texas represent.
Hell yeah. Starting fresh with the Machiavellian Monkeys. Why Machiavellian Monkeys, you ask? One, sounds cool. Cool photos, cool brand.
Hilarious.
In our old podcast, one of us made the comment about we're just Machiavellian monkeys to describe humanity.
Mm-hmm.
So, how's it? What do you think about it?
What do I think about it?
Yeah, why do you like Machiavellian monkeys?
I think, it goes well for both of us since we're less of a sheep-like entity.
We aspire above the level of sheep.
Right.
You know.
Mm-hmm.
You know. All reality, we're probably just like, fuck. We're sheep. They're like, we're about to get eaten.
Nah,
and,
man.
Let's munch on this grass while it looks good still.
I mean, not necessarily like shepherds, but definitely more like. Have you ever seen like herd animals move and then like one of them starts moving and then all the other ones start moving?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're the first ones that move. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know, man. I think we're like retarded sheep.
I guess. I don't think so, bro. I'm doing fucking good, man.
Bro, life is fucking great. The reason I like Machiavellian monkeys, the name rings so true to describe humans, is that the monkey part's important because it relates to evolution in general, like evolutionary biology and psychology, which is important to us, and how to understand the human condition and basically the morality we're trying to set for, because that's basically what we're doing. We're philosophers.
Right.
Retarded philosophers, but philosophers nonetheless.
Yeah, and technically we'd be apes, not monkeys, but...
Oh, sorry, Machiavellian primates, whatever.
Yeah, dude.
Machiavellian hominids.
Alliteration.
What is the alliteration? Monkeys is funny.
It is.
All right, and the Machiavellian part is what's to separate us from our primate cousins.
Yeah. For sure, I remember getting into a conversation with like a wokist person.
A wokist.
Yeah, and they were just talking about all this stuff about how you need to be vulnerable to strangers and all that kind of shit. And like the first thing I thought of was Machiavelli's like, all men are evil, ready to display their vicious nature whenever the chance arises,
Is that Machiavelli?
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
I guess we'll find out soon. But yeah, the Machiavellian part on top of the monkeys. So basically we say monkeys because there's the whole Joe Rogan chimpanzee thing. Like humans are not much more... I mean, we are more evolved than killer chimpanzees, but the instinct is still there, the caveman instinct.
Yeah.
We still have to eat, shit, fuck, and all that stuff. The basic animal stuff that we can never transcend, but beyond transcending life. The Machiavellian this differentiates us in the fact that we have, you can say, more abstract reasoning or whatever. It's just more abstract concepts, so we can have better ability to deceive and to lie and to like... Basically, the humans, we're much more socially complex than our monkey cousins.
And like having stratagem within the social construct.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So when we look at people acting out in the community or humanity in politics or whatever, we don't try to angelicize or demonize that person. We just look at them like that's the Machiavellian monkey. What is the Machiavellian monkey trying to do?
Yeah, like objectively. And then most people are looking for their own interests. You see this particularly with like bureaucracy. When you look at the Department of Labor, Department of Education, the military-industrial complex, like these people, they're not looking out for what's best for the country. They're looking out how they're going to increase their budget and like expand their department.
Yeah, their budget and their status, trying to get up on the other monkeys, Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that's the lens. That's the name of the new podcast. More fun. R.I.P. Drag the Waters. You were our first.
Yeah, boom. Buried.
All right. And then, so what are we doing? The first course of study on the Machiavellian Monkeys, just to keep things simple and interesting. We were actually going to try to do an intensive study on course on Machiavelli himself, his life,
The man.
his philosophy, the world of the Renaissance, which he grew up in, and how that all related, the different power structures there, and then our parallels to our modern civilization, so we can have fruitful conversation. If we're going to call ourselves Machiavellian, we might as well go straight to the words and see what we like, what we don't like, and how it all fits. So in the first course of study is going to be The Prince, which is his most famous work.
Right.
You know, is it better to be loved or feared?
Yeah, and then also most of his known works were done after he had already gone out of office and had already like come back from exile and stuff like that.
His known works?
Yeah.
Because I know he also did, like, from what those things, he's done like poetry and plays.
Yeah, again afterwards.
And stuff. Oh, afterwards? So, going with that, we'll just, we can go a brief rundown of who this Machiavelli was. It's Niccolo Machiavelli.
Niccolo.
Niccolo, yeah. That'd be an interesting thing to learn Italian, dude. To like take this.
Hey, I got the Rosetta Stone, bro.
Rosetta
Let's
Stone.
get on that shit.
It'd be fun. Definitely be more interesting to read it if we're going to go like soup or liberal arts and stuff. You know, this is the new liberal arts people podcast, YouTube. You're used to it. Don't waste money going to college to tell you to read books that you can find on Amazon.
Oh, no, yeah.
You're welcome.
It's a ROI. You don't want to go $80,000 in debt for a $20,000 a year education.
Yeah, not to read a bunch of books that are already there. But Niccolo Machiavelli, some people think that the devil was called Old Nick after Machiavelli because his name becomes synonymous with the
What?
Mephistophelianism. I don't know.
I never heard of that. When I think of Machiavellianism,
Yeah.
in modern era, they talk about it as psychologically, like having the dark triad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's one of the 3 dark triad traits, along with narcissism and psychopathy.
Yeah.
Or sociopathy. I don't know if either of those count. But it's just manipulativeness.
Right. Well, I mean, I guess that's like giving the devil his due, but it's practical. It's practical, like the way that the best thing about his works is it's a defense mechanism of like getting screwed over.
Yeah, I suppose so. If you're, it's one of the downfalls to being like at the top. You know, which we've talked about other podcasts about. We like to, aside from the Machiavellian stuff, we talk about the king mindset because we do believe it's very important. We are encouragers of living a good life, being smart, working hard or at least consistently to build a better life. And we talk about being the king, but sometimes we also talk about maybe it's better to be the merchant. Because if you're the king, you rule, but if someone else wants to be the king, the target's on your back.
Right.
You know, it's better to be a merchant. You can be wealthy and kind of just, float by and surf by as opposed to, having to live in fear all the time. And merchants also go from kingdom to kingdom and get to make money off them all.
Yeah, make money off both sides or whatever it is.
Yeah. So.
And it's just practical. Like when you look at Machiavelli's work or you look at great and powerful men of the past, some of whom, had more, different means of taking power. I don't know how to describe it.
What do you mean?
Like a
coup?
Well, not necessarily a coup. When you look at like great men of the past, some of which did like dirty work, or had a cat's paw, or did unfavorable things that people would consider unethical and stuff. Like all of those things, what history's there for you is so that someone else learned a lesson and then you can learn from that lesson. And then you can also see illustrations of tactics or situations. It's the same thing when you see like good fiction. It's like it's almost like simulations.
Right.
So then you could see all these terrible things that people do, and then know that people have this dark side, the shadow in them, and then arm yourself against them.
Yeah, it's one of the things that made Machiavelli very unpopular, is that he was one of the first, some people consider him one of the first modern thinkers, but he was born in 1469 in Florence, Italy, from an old Tuscan family under Lorenzo Medici the Magnificent, and got to live through a bunch of political turmoil.
And he was frank and straightforward and unsavory.
Oh yeah, and his writing is supposed to be very unambiguous, which would make easy reading for us, which would be great. But he was hated because he was one of the first philosophers to divorce his study of politics from ethics. Because like Aristotle and Plato and all of them, when they talked about politics, they're always talking about like how to be the ideal king of utopia. Yeah. And Machiavelli was just like, we're getting our Italian asses handed to us by the French and the Spanish and the Germans. And we're all fighting each other because we don't have a strong state. He's in fact considered, some people probably one of the first nationalists. He did inspire a lot of fascists back in the 20th century. You can find his book there. That's the thing, yeah. When you divorce the ethics from the politics, you don't get the like what should be. You look at men as they are. So, which is very important. That's why we call it, say, Machiavellian Monkeys. We're not looking at an idealized version of humanity.
Right.
We're not one of these critical theorists / postmodernists that's trying to divorce humanity from our evolutionary roots and call it white supremacy.
Right.
You know, we're looking at as much as we can everything, you know, to do interesting analysis.
Yeah, and just attempting to be realistic. I'm gonna try not to be too cynical.
Hey man, we'll see where it goes. We'll try to keep it fun, try to keep it interesting. Machiavelli had a lot of experience with politics. He did like 14 years as the secretary of the Second Chancery of the Republic of Florence.
Yes.
In charge of military and foreign affairs. So he ended up entreating, I might be using that word wrong, with, you know, the French king.
Right.
Maximilian, the emperor, I don't know of what, maybe.
Germany.
And he did some emissary work to Venice, probably to the Pope and whatnot. So I think he did, yeah.
Yeah, and he was like a statesman, right hand to Caesar Borgia.
Was he?
Yeah. Or he was like on his council. I'm pretty sure, bro.
I know from what I read in this introduction here that he was a big fan of Cesare Borgia, however you say that name, who was not a nice guy. But, you know, he did 14 years or 14 missions in 12 years. And when, I guess, the Florentinians freaked out and they recalled the Medici who he's working with. And for some reason, part of that process was him getting basically fired and exiled.
Yeah, because he was like one of the men of the previous power group or whatever. Yeah, the deposed power.
Yeah, they take out the entire structure. Like, no, it's like
sorry, bro.
When a new alpha comes to the lion pride, he kills all the cubs, and then all the females go in estrus again. So it's like, these are mine, my empire. So he did his exiled,
tortured
for a year on the rack.
They had thought that he was what's it called, conspiring against the new Medici power.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. And then he just went, they released him and he was like working on his farmland or whatever. Yeah. Which I thought was cool because that's where he's like doing the magic, where he's like wearing his fancy robes. So like after the day, and they know this from letters that he was writing to, a correspondent of the Pope at the time. I forget. It's like the only person, because he had been displaced from politics except for this one guy who was like chancellor to the Pope or ambassador to the Pope.
So this is a letter to his friend Vittori,
Yeah.
whoever that is. Talking about living in the country.
And then
like,
he'd be like putting on fancy clothes and fancy dress.
at the night.
And like putting himself into a mind space where he's talking with ancient thinkers and writers.
Yeah, it's very Napoleon Hill, who suggests doing the same thing.
Heard that. And that's Think and Grow Rich, right?
Yeah, man. That book, he says, every night he thinks of all the great men. He says you study them, and then you imagine them. And then eventually you think about what they would say, and eventually they take on a life of their own, which is 100% like the same thing as shamanic journeying, and probably basically what evocation comes down to, like summoning spirits. I bet it's the same stuff. So
just ritual.
Or just using the imagination. So, and then at a certain point, it probably becomes hard to tell if you were playing the voice inside your head, or if you might have actually tapped into the consciousness of these past people or these spirits. But that's besides the point. It's just a cool thing to do if you're inclined to imagine. So he's exiled for a long time, and this is when he decides to write the first book we're going to study, which is The Prince, his famous one, which is a manual for a prince or a statesman.
Yeah, I believe it's supposedly written for the young son, but more importantly, it's like a manual on how to rule for polite people. And he talks about how you have to be ruthless because you're in a position of power, and then like trying to what's it called, not shape, man, but like prepare him to like, hey, you're gonna make hard decisions.
Yeah.
So learn from the past, and hopefully you'll be a good ruler with this console.
Yeah, definitely. And his idea of good rulership is not the same as being a good citizen, which is once again that divorce from statecraft and politics from ethics. The ethics you use as to be an efficient and powerful leader doesn't need to be the same morality of the sheep.
And this was 1500s.
Oh yeah, 1500, man. Like,
right. So
long time ago.
What was it? Colonialization or colonization?
Just starting.
Just about to start. Yeah.
Well, aside from like Rome, old Rome, you know.
Spain would be in power at the time. Italy's a falling power, or waning power. England is on the rise, slow rise, like it was be early English rise.
We'll have to do these in other podcasts to examine the powers
geopolitical
of 1500
Mediterranean power. Yeah, because what's all going on there? You have
because Columbus 1492 is already done.
You've got Barbary pirates, probably the Ottoman Empire, or is this before Ottomans?
I don't know, man. It's a good thing to learn. If Spain's the superpower, then the Ottomans probably aren't out yet.
Yeah,
or it's I don't know if it's pre or post Ottoman.
Yeah, they would have already pushed the Moors out of Spain at that time.
The Reconquista. So there's that.
So this is things to look forward in our future podcasts here.
Yeah, give us a comment on YouTube to let us know what you'd like to hear about, and then we'll think about pushing aside maybe a study of a prince to do a little geographical look-see and analysis. But yeah, so Machiavelli wrote his manual, The Prince, it says to
1503.
Lorenzo the Magnificent, hoping to like give a gift to a powerful man and be restored to some kind of office, because he was a very active, public servant, and probably just what he wanted to do, and just to serve the Republic. He, from this introduction I read, was very much like he was a Renaissance Italian humanist. So we're gonna have to like probably dive into humanism and see a little bit more about that. And
and he felt like he was wasting away because he had spent all of his adult life, like from 25 to what is that? 39, 44. No, it'd be 39. Yeah, 14 years as a statesman.
Yeah. It was like 30 to 45, I think.
Yeah, so he's thinking this whole time after he's in exile, like, man, I'm a master of this craft. What is this craft? Statesman, politic.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do I give back to my people and serve them rather than like wasting away on this?
Instead, he's just
farm.
dicing and playing cards with, you know, plebs at the tavern, you know, reading his books. So he wrote this manual, trying to get back to power. He ended up getting a few jobs by the end of his life. He got commissioned to write the history of Florence by Cardinal de' Medici, who ended up becoming Pope Clementine the 7th or 8th. And he got a small salary from that. But by the time he died, like, the French, the Germans had been beating up northern Italy a whole bunch. The Reformation happened, which caused more turmoil. So that'd be another good topic to look at the Reformation in Europe in the 1500s. And everything's just topsy-turvy. And then he died.
Right.
So he died after his beloved Rome was sacked the final time. Well, I don't know if it was the final time, but one of the last times for sure. So that's a broad and incomplete look at Machiavelli. Let's see here. But his book was very popular as a manuscript. It wasn't published till 5 years after his death.
Prince.
And,
because it was just private until after that.
And when it was printed, it went through 25 editions in 20 years, which sounds like a lot for, you know, when you start to make books by, you know, putting little mechanical letters on a printing press and all that stuff, man.
Right. And I want to say that he had to rewrite it. I think there's an additional chapter or something, because he had first written it to a different ruler.
Oh, yeah?
And then that ruler was deposed.
Oh.
So just an idea of, like, how much conflict and the political structure was at that time. And then also, not only is it a different time, but, like, people, you know, I've talked to people who think that these people were ruthless, like the ruling class, the kingdoms, the monarchies, and stuff like that. But it seems as though every time a power structure is deposed, the next power is, like, more corrupt and more evil and more bad for, like, its populace, typically.
Maybe.
It's like more centralized power plus technology.
Something like that, man. I don't know. It's different for every empire, I suppose.
Except for the United States.
Well, I mean, like, I think the Persians were famous for, like, they'd take over and then they'd put, like, a governor in, but they'd leave the rest of the infrastructure and let the people rule themselves.
Was that the Persians? I remember Alexander did that.
Well,
that was, like, his way of conquering the Middle East, was that he'd go in, fuck them up, and then, like, just let them keep their culture and even their hierarchies just with different people. Because he was like, well, there's no need to change these, what are they called, auxiliaries?
The governments?
Yeah, but, like, the people out there.
You just leave the tax collector and keep on going.
Exactly. You're just like, now y'all go to me, but y'all do y'all's thing.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's different stuff in the...
Satrapies.
Satrapies. The modern colonialization, I mean, it's still happening. You know.
Oh, you mean like China and East Africa?
Yeah, China for sure. I mean, I'm not expert on this, but yeah, I'd call that colonization for sure. It might not be in the same. It's not like, I mean, obviously technology's improved and, you know, the social structures are different now.
Yeah, capitalism's changed.
So
it's no longer about, like, just capital objects. It's about production.
Yeah, and you don't have to colonize with warships anymore, even though it still is very popular, like the United States and the Middle East and whatnot.
Yes.
But a lot of it's economic as well. You go in, take over, put in your McDonald's or whatever kind of, you know,
Starbucks,
profit stealing a company you have, you know, to make your money over there. So, but that's just how it is. But I think that's pretty much it. I'm looking forward to doing this in-depth study and getting the words in, because we got the first few chapters here, various kinds of government, ways they are established, of hereditary monarchies, of mixed monarchies, and then
Darius,
dominions, which have been acquired by one's own arms and ability. And he just goes through each little like kind of rulership and ability to take over a principality, how the strength of states should be measured, ecclesiastical, church principalities. Big fan of militias and citizen forces.
Yeah, armed population.
So, yeah.
Although it does him poorly, because I think Niccolo Machiavelli's Art of War is not like a really good strategy for warfare.
Yeah, I mean, I look forward to reading it and seeing what's up, man. So it talks about the kingdoms, about
he's a statesman, not a
armaments.
general.
Yeah, and then he talks about, how to, be inside the principality, all the love and fear stuff. And then he's got a final chapter, which is kind of, a lot of people think is weird, where he actually goes on, instead of being like the Machiavellian political scientist, he goes like, I say all this stuff because I love my country of
love,
Rome.
yeah.
And he goes into like this whole nationalism thing, because he believes in the strength of the nation state. I don't know if he quite says it that way. We'll find out when we read it. But that's what he wanted. He thinks that the only reason he thought Italians were superior, except for in their political organization and in their military strength compared to the other powers in Europe.
To me, when I think of nationalism, I don't necessarily think of like ethno-nationalism, but I definitely think nationalism is superior to globalism, although that a strong nation state can participate well in the geopolitical structure. Because it's like the same thing about being like the best version of yourself. Like if you're doing good and it's going to positively affect all of your friends and family, and it's like if the country's doing good, it should do the same unless you're, doing it unethically.
Well, I mean, as far as my anarchist leaning screams, it's like there is no ethically with
government,
with the nation, with the state. Yeah,
right.
It's all the
power.
It's all thievery, murder, and inefficiency. So to the benefit of the very few elite that align themselves with the state power structures, are able to benefit.
Okay, well, I would say the problem now is that the state's gotten too big, because if the state was as it was nearer to the founding, it'd be small and inefficient, and people would be able to be almost anarchistic.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're so removed from those people, man.
Yeah, we're in a different world. It's a different era, and I'm looking forward to diving deep in this new Machiavellian Monkeys podcast.
Hell yeah. Machiavellian Monkeys. So that's the intro to Niccolo himself, Old Nick. We're excited to go on this course of study. And next week we will bring you the beginning. We'll go through the first several chapters and whatever jumps out at us, and we'll do a little analysis on it.
Hell yeah.
All right, so you'll probably catch us on YouTube right now. If you like the idea of the Machiavellian Monkeys, just give us a like. If you want to be sure and see next week's or hear next week's podcast, subscribe. Let us know down below in the comments, whatever. Say what's up. Let us know what you want to hear. If not, it's cool. It's whatever.
Yeah, and follow me on Twitter at Lurker Mario.
Yeah, and thanks for hanging out with us, and we look forward to having fun with all on this journey.
Cheers.